What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with Reactions to the Classics, and today we got a reaction to Top 10 Obscure Artists brought to us by a friend, longtime supporter and patron of the channel, Slade Said. Thank you, Slade Said. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the patrons who make this thing go. If you'd like to support us in any way, check out the Patreon link below or the Patreon link on the end screen. We put up videos every single day. We could not do it without you. Okay, only Slade Said that I could put this list together of the people that I know, because I've never heard it. I think I've heard of one of these bands. Maybe the name sounds a little bit familiar, but that's just because we just recently finished an album draft series on the channel where we went from 1965 through 2022. And in that, I did listen to some obscure artists whose albums were highly critically acclaimed. So I think I've heard of this band, but it'll be a little while before we get to them. Slade Said doesn't have much here. He decided to focus on bands or artists that are pretty obscure. Some of them date back a good number of years, while others are more present. So before we get started, the music will not be in this video, but it will be in a Vimeo link below. We will start this thing off with The Citizens. And if you're looking for them on Spotify, there's a lot of Citizens and The Citizens. So The Citizens, the song is The Surfer from the album Post-Cro-Magnon Drift in 2006. Slade Said the first artist on this list is the New York-based The Citizens, which is basically the brainchild of singer-songwriter and multi-instrumentalist Mark Lesero. He first recorded a couple of albums in his own name before creating The Citizens, with whom he recorded the debut Citizens album, Are We There Yet?, in 2004, featuring a large number of guest musicians. But the regular members of the band here would be Tom Lowe on electric guitars, Jason DiMatteo on bass, and John Bollinger on drums. This quartet would go on to record the follow-up album, this one, Post-Cro-Magnon Drift, 2006, while Mark continued to also release albums in his own name. The latest release by Mark and The Citizens so far is 2020's Not 12. All right, this is the lead-off track from this album. I'm going to have the lyrics up where I could find them. I can only find them for about half of these. Thanks again, Slade Said. All right, The Surfer by The Citizens. Just really good arrangement here. The guitars got really swirling there for a little bit, got after it. I thought Mark's voice was really good. The circus is coming to town, boys and girls. Watch out. But yeah, I just thought that was the highlight for me, is the arrangement. I just thought the sound of this was great. So good way to start this thing off. All right, next up at number 9, we got the Fatima Mansions song, A Pack of Lies, from the album Viva Dead Ponies in 1990. For our next pick, we move some years back in time to 1990, where we find the band, the Fatima, I think I'm saying that right, I saw them in an interview. I looked on YouTube, that's how the person said it, Mansions, who was an alternative rock band from Dublin, Ireland. The alternative rock tag should not be taken too seriously, however, because in reality, the Fatima Mansions is very hard to place in any genre. They played folk, indie folk, punk, noise rock, and everything in between. The undisputed band leader was singer-songwriter Cathal. I think that's how you say it. I watched an interview with Coughlin, who had been a member of the indie rock band Micro Disney before he formed the Fatima Mansions. Cathal, who died in May of 2022 at the age of 61, was infamous for his provocative lyrics and outspoken nature. UK newspaper The Guardian described him as, quote, the most underrated lyricist in pop today. So he did have his supporters. The Fatima Mansions released 5 full albums between 1989 and 1994. The band was put on what turned out to be a permanent hold after the 1994 album due to contractual issues with their American record label. Cathal Coughlin went on to record a small handful of albums in his own name following this. To me, I would think his best work was with the Fatima Mansions. And for this list, I went with one of the more accessible songs, A Pack of Lies. Let's do it. A Pack of Lies, the Fatima Mansions. What a song. I thought the keyboard work on there was fantastic. And, the song's lyrics are great. Basically saying, this girl meets this guy at the end of in the first verse, but the important part's the last part, because people hate the truth, they need their pack of lies. And then talking about this other stuff, all this other things going on, this woman dies. But the very last 4 lines here, the moral of the story is, this land's a victim farm. Don't you ever feed a beggar here, he'll eat your effing arm. And don't blasphemize the strong ones if you want to stay alive. Now smile and give them thanks when they say, here's a pack of lies. So the people in power, they're lying to you. But if you want to get along and not cause any issues, you just got to smile and keep on going on. And that's how people who tell lies in power, whether it be government, business, whatever, that's how they stay in power, because nobody wants to rock the boat. But fantastic written song. Next up, we have Hallelujah the Hills with the song We Are What We Say We Are from the album Have You Ever Done Something Evil? Slade Said we jump ahead for our third pick. Boston's Hallelujah the Hills was formed in 2005 and play a melodic blend of lo-fi and power pop. Ryan Walsh is the band's main songwriter and lead vocalist, and he and drummer Eric Meyer founded the band after the demise of their former band, The Stairs. The odd name is taken from a 1963 cult comedy. I was wondering that. The band continues to issue new music, and in 2022, they announced the ambition to record a 52-song album with one song for every card on a deck of playing cards, a project they expect to take about a year and a half. It will essentially be 4 albums, parts with 13 songs each, with a specific focus for each suit. Diamonds will be a proper studio follow-up album to their most recent album, I'm You, from 2019. Clubs will be lo-fi and fast, dirtier, punkier songs. Hearts will be a sparser, mostly acoustic, yet carefully orchestrated album full of weepers, in their own words. Spades will be a free-form experimental record. The album is sufficiently funded, should be finalized by spring of 2024. In the meantime, we can listen to their old output, such as We Are What We Say We Are. All right, let's do it. We Are What We Say We Are. I really have no idea what this song's about. I read the lyrics. I was following along, but the musicianship is fantastic, right? Really punky at the start and kind of as it builds through it. Then it dials it way back. Great drumming, right? And almost an anthemic We Are What We Say We Are. Just kind of got into your head as the song went in and it was repeated so much. So I thought it was really well done. Well, next up, I know the Monkees. I know the Arctic Monkeys, but now we're going to know Junk Monkeys. The song Marigold from the album 5 Star Fling in 1991. Next up, we have Detroit, Michigan's Junk Monkeys, who was a relatively short-lived punk rock band with 4 studio albums released between 1987 and 1992. They were on the Metal Blade record label, and this is probably not the most obvious label for them, as the record label really didn't know what to do with the band, which was vastly different from the genre the label mostly dealt with, various kinds of metal, obviously. It's a pity, since Junk Monkeys could easily have been a part of the emerging grunge scene at the time with their melodic and yet very energetic songs, even if they didn't come from Seattle. One such example is this one right here, Marigold. Junk Monkeys, Marigold. What a guitar riff in there, right? The drumming was great, but that guitar riff in there was just fantastic, man. It was the highlight of the song. Really, I mean, one of the highlights of any of these songs so far kind of stands out for me. So, I mean, I super enjoyed Junk Monkeys. And yeah, they probably shouldn't have been on a metal label, right? But, I mean, you got to sign with Who Is Gonna Take You. But an infectious little tune there. We got some names on this list, and this one is no exception. Number 6, we got Bullet Lavolta from the song Dead Wrong from the self-titled EP in 1988. So it said for a number 6 spot, we find Boston's Bullet Lavolta, a punk rock band founded by 4 college DJs, with the addition of singer Yuki Gipe, real name Kurt Davis, who answered an advertisement for a vocalist of the band. They released 3 full studio albums between 1989 and 1991 before breaking up in 1992. The first release was a self-titled EP. It's actually my personal favorites of theirs, and that's where this song comes from. I thought I knew I was wrong. Dead wrong. I thought I knew, but I was wrong. I had it down, right? You got to say the dead wrong in the call and response, and you got to let him sing on the next one. Then you got to sing. So very catchy. Obviously, great guitar with great drumming. It's just a really good song, man. I don't know exactly the whole context of what the song's about, but it doesn't really matter. It's all about the soundscape, right? All right, we're already to the top half of this list. The song will not be up on Spotify. They don't have it, so I'll play it off YouTube. The artist is Heads Up with an exclamation point. Song's Dave's song from the album Duke. It's an EP. In 1991, Slade said if the 2 previous bands were short-lived, it's nothing against the band we find at number 5. Heads Up was a New York-based funk metal band who released 1 full LP and an EP before disbanding. Considering how funk metal was on the rise in the early 90s with bands like Faith No More, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Living Colour breaking through. Faith No More released The Real Thing in 89. Red Hot Chili Peppers released Blood, Sugar, Sex Magic in 91. And Living Colour released Time's Up in 1990. You would think that a band like Heads Up emerged at the perfect time, but for whatever reason, they never made it big. I remember seeing them live in front of a crowd of no more than 30 people or so, but it was a good experience nonetheless. They had some obvious songs on their debut album to choose to show their more commercial appeal, but I decided to pick the song Dave's Song from their Swan Song, the Duke EP from 1991, where they evolved into more than just another funk metal band. And it makes you wonder how they would have sounded if they had continued. The song starts off as a pretty typical funk metal song, but later evolves into something else. All right, I'm not a big funk metal guy at all, but there is some of it that I like. Let's see if this is one of them. All right, Heads Up, Dave's song. Definitely had a lot of stuff going on. The bass work was fantastic, as it often is in this genre of music, but it definitely took a turn about 40% of the way through. And yeah, definitely being something different, man. That tone and that melody was fantastic. So yeah, I mean, I won't call it funk metal necessarily, but I will tell you that I liked it. All right, we got 4 songs left. We head back over to Spotify. Lisa Germano, song Small Heads from the album Excerpts from a Love Circus in 1996. For our next pick, Slade said we find our first female vocalist on the list. Singer-songwriter Lisa Germano started her musical career as a violinist in John Mellencamp, very underrated artist, band with whom she played for 7 years. She also appeared on albums by Simple Minds and Indigo Girls and others before embarking on a solo career where she would focus on much darker and introvert sound than you would think, considering the artists she had worked with. She now primarily plays guitar and has released 10 studio albums between 1991 and 2013. My favorite album of hers is probably Happiness from 1993, but for this list, he went with Small Heads. All right, let's do it. All right, Lisa Germano, Small Heads. Was that a recorder on there? I don't know what that instrument was, but it sounded like it was. I mean, it probably wasn't, but a well-written song. I really like the way she sounded. You know, she's just talking to this guy about this guy's really selfish, but so is she. But, you know, I think it's more he is. And she's kind of really playing that out. The world revolves around you, but it revolves around me too. So how could we see the same one? It's a lonely life. Do you ever want to know anything past your face? Do you ever think of other things like, how about me? Wouldn't that be something? All the time thoughts of me in your head. And then she's like deciding how we're selfish together and you tell lies and all this stuff. But still says that, you know, she's selfish too. But I think, you know, with 2 selfish people, well, one selfish person's in a relationship, it's usually not going to work. But sometimes it does if the other person just placates them. But yeah, I like this sound. It's really good. All right, now we're up to number 3. We got the Elysian Fields. This is who I think I know, but maybe I don't. I know I don't know this song. Song Tie to the Moon from the album Queen of the Meadow in 2000. So it said we continue with the female vocals as the band Elysian Fields is fronted by Jennifer Charles. Jennifer and Oren Blodow are the mainstays in this band, which formed in New York in 1995 and recorded 11 studio albums to date. The band is a pretty unique style, not the least due to Jennifer Charles' vocal style. For this list, I chose the song Tides of the Moon from their second album, okay? Tides of the Moon. That one could have went on longer for me. I just really enjoy that. I like Jennifer's vocal styles there. And I think this song is a very veiled thing of just like the world's coming up against her. It's the tides of the moon. She's swimming against the tides of the moon. Just uses all these lyrics, these allusions to going and swimming against that and being up against it, right? But she's still here and she's still fighting on. I thought the musicianship was great. The production was really good. It sounded super crisp. Probably, yeah, it is my favorite song on here so far. I don't want to give away too much. Come on, guys. We got 2 songs left. You see it below at number 2. We got Down by the River from the Julia Mosley Band from their album Illuminate the Night pretty recently in 2020. Slade said for our number 2 spot, I chose a very recent artist who has so far released only 1 studio album, but it's a release that shows a lot of promise. Julia Mosley from Staffordshire, England, is a classically trained vocalist who blends alternative rock with goth elements and some more traditional musical leanings. Her debut album is not perfect, but it's a very impressive start. And for this list, I've chosen one of my favorites from the album, Down by the River, which both shows her vocal ability as well as being one of the more rock-oriented songs, which I, of course, like a lot. I'm with you there. She's currently working on her follow-up, which allegedly would be her darkest yet. I definitely look forward to it. Down by the River, Julia Mosley Band. That song was great. That song was fire, man. Her vocals, she gets up into that higher register. It was just fantastic. The musicianship, the drumming, guitar work, all of it, man. This band had it going on. And I couldn't find any instrumental credits. I couldn't find anything on this song, actually. But, you know, Down by the River, you're not going to get away with it, right? She sacrificed everything. But, man, I'm going to have to go. I'm going to go check out this album. I know that Slade said this is one of the most rocking songs on here, but whew, she was good. And we're up to number 1 on Slade Said's Top 10 Obscure Artists. You see it below, Masters of Reality, the song John Brown from their self-titled album in 1989, the year of my high school graduation. Slade said for our number 1 spot, I went with the band that has released a good number of albums and where it is really puzzling why they have never made it big, at least to some extent. The band Masters of Reality took their name from the Black Sabbath album, pretty much the same name. We have a reaction to that of Trey's actually currently running the Black Sabbath catalog. Go check that out if you like. Taking the name from a Black Sabbath album would lead you to think that Masters of Reality is doom metal, but they're definitely not. They're mostly blues-based hard rock band. Chris Goss, the band's lead singer and guitarist and songwriter, is mostly known as the producer of a number of Kyuss and Queen of the Stone Age albums. He's a great musician in his own right. The debut album by Masters of Reality, the self-titled album from 1989, which is also known as The Blue Garden due to the album cover, as well as a song of the same name, was produced by none other than Rick Rubin. So there were reasons to believe they would go places, but it never materialized. And shortly after the debut, Chris Goss broke up the band and reformed it as a trio 3 years later, where legendary Cream drummer Ginger Baker joined the band and played on their second album, Sunrise on the Suffer Bus. Just like the debut album, reviews were excellent, but sales just didn't happen. And again, the band went on a hiatus before returning again with a live album in 1997 and a new studio album in 1999. They've issued a couple more studio albums, but since our last studio album is from 2009, it seems likely that the band is not active anymore. Although I saw them live some 6 to 7 years ago, so you never know. I still find their debut album to be the best. From that album, he's chosen this one, John Brown, number 1. All right, John Brown by Masters of Reality. Good vocals on there, fantastic drumming. I know Ginger Baker isn't here yet, but fantastic drumming on that one. The songwriting, I mean, I think John Brown, I imagine it's about the John Brown who here in America led the abolitionist movement of trying to free slaves and ended up getting hung in the process, right? So, when they're going to cut him down, but it's a holiday. So, liked the driving part of that song. Now we'll get to my favorite tracks. My honorable mentions, the Fatima Mansions, A Pack of Lies. We got Junk Monkeys and Marigold, and we got Lisa Germano and Small Heads. My favorites, I really played these two songs up, so they're not going to be a surprise. The Elysian Fields, Tides of the Moon. And I think my favorite song on here, Julia Mosley Band, Down by the River. So let me know what you thought of these tracks. Are there any other obscure bands that you think I should listen to? Obscurity is all in the eye of the beholder, right? It might be obscure to you, but not to me, or vice versa. But I'll tell you, man, like I said, Slade Said knows so much about music. To pull these bands out and know everything about them is amazing. So always appreciate the list that he curates. Always introduces me to this music that I don't know or barely heard and just become a fan of. So super appreciate that, guys. And until next time, I will see you.